The cafe was always a little too warm, a little too loud, but none of that mattered when Nyla saw him across the counter. Taeyang was wiping down the espresso machine, his sleeves rolled up to his elbows, dark hair falling slightly over his eyes. He didn't look up right away, but Nyla could already feel it, the air shifting between them, electric and thick with something unspoken. A customer laughed nearby. Plates clinked. But for a few seconds, all she could hear was the beat of her own heart. When he finally glanced up, his eyes met hers, and time did something strange, it stretched, then paused, like the whole cafe was holding its breath. His gaze wasn't bold, but it wasn't shy either. It lingered, just long enough to feel like a touch. Nyla smiled, half aware, half daring. She pretended to wipe down a nearby table, stealing one more glance when she thought he wasn't looking. But he was. He always was. They had worked side by side for nearly 3 months. Morning shifts turned into shared laughs. Late closings turned into long silences. Sometimes, silence spoke more than words ever could. Today was different. Taeyang walked past her on his way to the kitchen, and the brush of his arm against her sent a current straight through her spine. It wasn't accidental, not this time. His fingers lightly grazed hers as he passed, a slow, deliberate motion that made her lips part slightly in surprise. He didn't say a word. In the break room later, Nyla leaned against the wall, her coffee cooling in her hands. He entered quietly, their eyes locking instantly. "Long shift," she said softly, her voice carrying a weight beneath the words. He nodded, stepping closer. "Yeah. Feels longer today." Maybe it was the way he said it, or maybe it was just them finally giving in to something that had been simmering for too long. The air between them grew heavier, dense with anticipation. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. His eyes dropped to her lips. She took a step forward, subtle but clear. He mirrored her. No rush. No sudden moves. Just slow gravity pulling them closer. When his fingers brushed her wrist again, she didn't flinch. She let them linger. Their hands didn't fully meet, but they hovered, barely touching, like a promise hanging in the air. Nyla's breath caught as Taeyang leaned in slightly, his face just a whisper away from hers. Close enough for her to feel the heat of him. Close enough to make her pulse flutter. "Why does it feel like we've already kissed?" he asked, voice low, edged with something raw. Her reply came like a breath against his cheek. "Because maybe, we already have. Just not with lips." He let out a soft laugh, quiet, intimate. Then stepped back, just enough to leave her wanting. "I'm off at 9, he said. She didn't blink. "Me too." Their eyes locked again, this time, longer, deeper. Like they had both silently agreed, no more hiding. Outside, the sun began to set behind the glass windows of the cafe. Inside, something else was rising, slow, sensual, impossible to ignore. The night hadn't even started. And yet, they were already burning. The hotel room was dimly lit, just a soft amber glow spilling from the bedside lamp, casting long shadows that danced on the walls. Outside, the city's hum felt distant, as if the world had shrunk to only the space between Nyla and Taeyang. Nyla stood near the window, fingers lightly tracing the cold glass. Her heart raced like the traffic below, a chaotic rhythm she couldn't slow. Taeyang sat on the edge of the bed, watching her with eyes that held both fire and restraint. Neither of them spoke, but their silence screamed volumes. He finally rose, the movement fluid and deliberate, closing the gap between them. His fingers reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face, a touch so gentle it might have been a whisper. His hand lingered, tracing the curve of her cheek, the softness of her jaw. "I've wanted this," he said quietly, voice low and steady. "Longer than I realized." Nyla's breath hitched. The weight of his words pressed into her skin, stirring something raw and hungry deep inside. She stepped closer, until their bodies almost touched, a breath away from a collision neither wanted to delay. Her fingers found the hem of his shirt, pulling it slowly, teasingly, over his head. The smooth skin of his shoulders was warm under her touch, the muscles taut with anticipation. Taeyang's eyes darkened, watching every move as if memorizing the feel of her hands. The air thickened with desire, the kind that burned slowly but fiercely, setting every nerve alive. His lips brushed her collarbone, soft and searching. Nyla's hands traveled lower, exploring the strength beneath the surface, tracing the line of his spine with gentle insistence. "Don't stop," she murmured, voice trembling, caught somewhere between command and plea. He smiled, a slow, knowing curve that sent a shiver through her. His lips claimed hers then, slow and hungry, tasting and teasing. The kiss deepened, fierce and unrelenting, as if making up for all the moments they'd held back. Nyla's hands tangled in his hair, pulling him closer, needing to feel every inch of him. His hand slid down her sides, drawing her even nearer until their bodies were pressed together, skin against skin, sharing heat and promise. Every touch was electric. Every breath shared a secret. The world outside ceased to exist. Slowly, deliberately, Taeyang's hands moved beneath her shirt, exploring the softness of her skin, the gentle curves that called to him. Nyla arched into his touch, the ache inside her growing with every second. His mouth followed, leaving trails of fire along her neck and collarbone, each kiss a silent vow. They moved toward the bed, falling into the tangled sheets like they'd been waiting for this moment forever. The heat between them was suffocating, intoxicating. Nyla's fingers traced the lines of his back, memorizing the feel of his skin, the way his muscles flexed under her touch. Taeyang's hands mapped her body with equal reverence, worshipping every curve, every sigh. The tension between them was no longer just emotional, it was physical, raw, urgent. But even as their bodies spoke a language of desire, their eyes held something more, a tender vulnerability that made every touch, every kiss, every breath charged with meaning. Tonight was not just about passion. It was about connection. About trust. About finally letting go. And as their lips met again, softer this time, Nyla knew, this night would change everything. The room was thick with warmth and the quiet hum of anticipation. Every breath Nyla and Taeyang took was synchronized, every touch a silent conversation spoken only by their bodies. The hotel felt like their own little universe, detached from time, where only the moment mattered. Taeyang's hands glided over Nyla's waist, pulling her even closer. His fingers traced invisible patterns on her skin, and she trembled beneath his touch, not from cold, but from the electric thrill coursing through her veins. Her hands roamed freely, mapping the hard planes of his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her fingertips. She had imagined this night countless times, the feel of his lips on her skin, the heat of his body against hers, and now that it was real, it was even more intense than she had dared hope. His lips left a trail of fire from her jaw down to the hollow of her throat. Nyla closed her eyes, swallowing the soft gasp that escaped her. The sensation was intoxicating, every kiss a promise, every touch a confession. "Tell me what you want," Taeyang whispered against her skin, voice husky with desire. Nyla opened her eyes, meeting his gaze, dark, intense, vulnerable. "I want you," she breathed, the simplicity of her words carrying the weight of all her longing. He smiled, slow and knowing, then captured her lips again, this time deeper, more demanding. Their bodies pressed closer, the heat building between them like a storm ready to break. Fingers tangled in hair, breaths mingled, hearts pounding in perfect unison. Taeyang's hand slid beneath Nyla's shirt, his touch exploring every curve, every shiver. She arched into him, craving more, the feeling of skin against skin, the closeness that made her dizzy with need. Their clothes became obstacles to remove, slowly, deliberately. Each piece discarded was a layer peeled back, revealing not just flesh but trust, desire, and vulnerability. When finally their bodies were bare, the room seemed to pulse with their shared heat. They moved together on the soft bed, skin sliding against skin, every touch sparking flames that threatened to consume them whole. Nyla's fingers trailed over his shoulders, down his arms, memorizing the feel of him, solid, warm, alive. Taeyang's hands cupped her face, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Their lips met again, this time slower, tenderer, as if sealing a silent promise. The night stretched on, each moment a mix of passion and tenderness, of wild abandon and quiet connection. Between whispered words and soft moans, between desperate touches and lingering kisses, they found a space where they could be themselves, flawed, aching, and achingly real. As dawn's first light began to creep through the curtains, Nyla rested her head on Taeyang's chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. In that perfect, fragile silence, they both knew this night was just the beginning. The soft glow of dawn filtered through the sheer curtains, casting a gentle light over the room. Nyla stirred slowly, her body still humming with the memory of the night before. Taeyang lay beside her, his strong arms wrapped protectively around her waist, pulling her closer even in sleep. For a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. There was only this quiet sanctuary, two souls tangled in sheets, hearts still racing from whispered promises and the electric tension that had finally found its release. Nyla's fingers traced lazy circles on Taeyang's chest, marveling at the steady rise and fall of his breath. His skin was warm beneath her touch, a comforting contrast to the cool morning air. She pressed a soft kiss to his collarbone, savoring the peaceful intimacy between them. Opening her eyes, she caught his gaze, sleepy, tender, filled with something deeper than desire. It was the look of someone who wanted more than just a night, someone ready to face whatever came next. "Good morning," Taeyang murmured, voice still thick with sleep but edged with a shy smile. "Good morning," Nyla replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She smiled back, a mixture of contentment and anticipation blooming in her chest. They didn't rush to speak. Instead, they let the silence speak for them, a comfortable quiet that was rare and precious. Taeyang shifted, his hand sliding up to tuck a stray strand of hair behind Nyla's ear. "Last night was," he paused, searching for the right words. "More than I expected." Nyla nodded, biting her lip. "Me too. It felt like we were both holding back for so long." His eyes softened. "I don't want to hold back anymore." Her heart skipped. "Neither do I." Their lips met again, this time slow and deliberate, not just a kiss of passion, but of promise. The kind that lingers long after the night fades away. Outside, the city was waking up, but inside their little world, time had slowed, stretched into something tender and real. Nyla curled closer, her head resting against Taeyang's chest once more. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. He kissed her forehead. "Now? We see where this goes. Together." In that moment, the sensual tension that had simmered between them found its soft, steady rhythm. No more games, no more waiting, just two people, finally daring to be vulnerable. The morning light wrapped around them like a warm embrace, promising new beginnings and the slow, beautiful unfolding of something neither of them had dared to hope for.